the 3rd of September 1941. My dear father, in these last 3 weeks, a lot of things have happened, and our comrades in the south, especially in the Ukraine, have experienced successes and have caught up with our push to the east. I wish you could have been here when we heard that Revel had fallen. God, were we overjoyed. I guess the strength of the German soldier is unique, and it seems that he is invincible. You and I wouldn't be two of a kind if we didn't have the exact same feelings about these victories. I can imagine that you would be a great leader of our outfit. I will never forget how the eyes of all my comrades lit up when, for the first time, orders for battle were given. Start the engines of your tanks. That's all we had been waiting for, and once we started, we pursued and defeated the enemy wherever we met him. Not one of us thought of death in battle. Unfortunately, some of my best friends have been killed. Nevertheless, all of us have only one thought in mind: to defeat the enemy. I saw men weep who had lost their tanks in battle, and I'll never forget how they attacked Russian tanks with weapons in their hands. A country such as ours that has men like these must live forever. Mother wrote to me today and congratulated me on my achievements. Here's what she said. My dear boy, I, as your mother, want to congratulate you for the decoration which you, as an honourable and brave soldier, received. When Mother writes like that, we know that our loved ones at home believe in what we are doing and support us completely. That means a lot for us men out here. They shouldn't complain at home, but should be proud of us. The life of the individual is insignificant compared to the history that is being made today. I want to greet you with Germany, Sieg Heil, the 7th of September 1941. My dearest wife, little Horsti, another Sunday, a quiet, lonely day like so many others. Time marches on, and you don't even realize that with each passing day you get older. So here I sit, rather contemplative, in my neat, clean tent. The sun is out, probably because it's Sunday, and its rays warm the tent roof. We've been camping out in this country now for 11 weeks, and every day has brought something different. Sometimes there are shouts of joy because of our mighty victories. At other times there is mourning because of our dead and wounded comrades, but always honest pride. All of us are guided by a beacon, and this guiding light is a belief in victory. Everything is possible with this belief in our hearts. The actual experience of war is an overpowering one, and your feelings during the battle are many-sided and unfathomable. I've tried to keep a diary and want to elaborate on them at a later date. I know your love will protect me. The 10th of September, 1941. Dearest darling, dear little Horsti. Although it's only 6 p.m., dusk has already settled over our campsite. An hour from now it will be quite dark. We will then gather again around the campfire and sing a few of our beautiful German folk songs. Yesterday I had the opportunity to visit the city of Smolensk. Although I gathered many impressions there, let me just tell you of one. I was able to visit a former Orthodox cathedral. The interior of this cathedral was richly decorated with gold and other artifacts, and I doubt that you could find such a magnificent church anywhere else in the world. The Bolsheviks, however, have altered this cathedral considerably and have turned it into an anti-God museum. It is really disgusting how these communist scoundrels treat everything that is great and holy. If you had a chance to observe these Russians with their distorted, grimacing faces, driven by a political insanity, then you would feel the same kind of rage which I felt after I had walked into that church. In my opinion, these Bolsheviks are murderers of all culture. I have just finished 2 more books. One was called Walter von Plettenberg, and is about the struggles and battles of the German knights against the frightful destruction of Russia under Ivan the Terrible, the bloody Tsar. It is indeed a powerful novel. The other book was Hermann Goering, The Man and His Work. It wasn't really a biography, but more of a novel that depicted this man and fighter as he was, the story of a real National Socialist. I'm including 2 letters that you ought to keep in your file. When you read them, you will be able to form your own opinion about things out here. Darkness is slowly settling over our forest. I'd like to sing quietly for you alone, and Richard Strauss's Eternal Melody comes to mind. Silently, we will gaze in each other's eyes, and happiness will come over us. The 13th of September, 1941. My dearest wife, my little horsty, rain is again falling on our tent. Because of the constant rain, the pathways of this country, which they call streets, are becoming impassable. You can't imagine what terrible shape they're in. I don't know what's going to happen when, in a few weeks, the bad weather period is supposed to start. Since we're no longer directly engaged in battle, we have much time to think of our comrades up front who, in their foxholes filled with water and dirt, are lying there with their guns aimed at the enemy. Their tenacity speaks of the courage and readiness of the German soldier. Starting last night, I began to have some cramps in my stomach. It must be some kind of intestinal flu, but I feel better now. For the time being, there's nothing I'd rather do out here than read. I suddenly have an incredible urge to read and to become more educated. I've almost completed a long novel, and am sure that it will have a lasting effect on me. This book is called The Lion by Mirko Jalusich, and is about the history, unity, and greatness of Germany during the time of Heinrich, the Lion. He is a magnificent and noble figure. Yes, once the fighting is over and we are together again, we must study German history and literature together. I'm looking forward to those evenings where we will find each other in art and history during hours of intellectual activity. I know that we will stimulate and encourage each other in this pastime. Yes, my dearest, our married life will never be monotonous. I have learned out here what monotony is, and I've had enough of it. That's why I am longing to teach again. I miss my elementary school students very much, and would like to be able to enthuse and enlighten them about many things. It seems to me that I can do this best in those subjects which I have chosen as my major. The battle out here, which I have fought for us, has matured me considerably. I kiss you on your white forehead. The 17th of September, 1941. My dearest Maddie, my hands are so cold that I can hardly write to you. Thank God we're on the move again and about to camp at another location. I can tell you that the roads are in terrible condition. There's mud everywhere, and the rain doesn't seem to want to stop. Horses would probably be of more use to us now than vehicles. Sometimes we have to make new roads by simply driving across the countryside. But everywhere you go, you slip and slide and get stuck. If you happen to have some woolen gloves and a woolen scarf, please send these items to me. I don't even know if I still have gloves and a scarf at home. In a few weeks we expect it to get very cold here. Dear Maddie, yesterday I had such a longing for you. I had to literally suppress my tears. Please kiss my boy. My dearest Maddie, our German proverb, different people have different customs, does not apply to this endless, monotonous country of Russia. I suppose this proverb may be applicable to many countries on earth, but not here. This country, like its people, seems eternally grey and monotonous. Everywhere you look, there is nothing but poverty and wretched misfortune. Poverty looks at you from every corner, and certainly the men, women and children are terribly poor. Can you imagine that human beings grow up to live like animals? That seems to be the case here. Just the other day I mentioned to one of my comrades that even a little flower in God's wonderful nature grows up with more sunshine during its lifetime, and enjoys more care and happiness than these people here. It would be inconceivable for me to have our child live in such an environment. I suppose it's just as impossible to ask a Russian to think of something beautiful and noble. If you only knew under what arduous conditions our victories were fought and won. Sometimes it was incredible, fighting on muddy Russian roads or in rainy weather that seemed to have no end. Time and space are suspended. Once this last battle is over, peace will return to Germany and Europe. We out here on the front carry this belief in our hearts. You back home should have the same belief and hope as we do. Due to this common belief and hope, the front and the homeland are united in the real sense of the word. This point of view should play an important part in the schools today. You as teachers who are able to mould and educate the youth of our great country should, in this difficult and proud time, let our children participate in the heroism of their brothers and fathers. I would give anything if I were able to stand in front of my elementary school students for just one day. A teacher must be enthusiastic and must have a burning desire to teach. If he can do this, he has the undivided attention of his pupils and doesn't have to worry about discipline. Believe me, all the things that I have learned out here in this monumental struggle will help me become a better teacher. You probably are spending much time with our son. Your entire love must belong to this child, since it is our child. But when you are teaching school, you must also share this love and enthusiasm with your pupils. Otherwise, you should quit your job. I've become very conscious of the fact that our teaching profession, especially today and after the war, will demand real idealists. You can't do this job well if you do it half-heartedly. I hope everything is in order at home and no one is quarrelling. Always think of us out here on the front who are protecting you, if need be, with our lives. When you think of this, then you must agree that the little quarrels that occur at home once in a while between family members are only secondary. Hug my child and kiss him for me. The 26th of September, 1941. My dear father, it seems that you are now stationed much farther away from me than I had initially assumed. I haven't heard a word from you in weeks. Perhaps you were participating in the monumental battle of encirclement around Kiev, and thus were unable to write. If you were there, I assure you that our tank battalion will vie with you for this glory. Yes, thank God, I have a new tank and am waiting for my orders. My tank crew and I are eager to move out, and we're itching to prove ourselves once more in battle. Once the last battle is fought and won out here on the Russian front, those fellows on the other side of the English Channel will really get worried. We can hear them already, lying, foaming at the mouth, and inciting others against us. None of that will help those British scoundrels. Once the German sword strikes, they will be hurting for sure. My God, you can't believe how proud we are of our fatherland, and how often we long to be back in our homeland, to see its forests and meadows, its lakes and mountains. Let me greet you with Germany, Sieg Heil. The 9th of October, 1941. My dearest Maddie, my dear little boy, I'm sure that you must have heard the special radio announcements about our battle achievements. Yes, you can find me somewhere on this front near Moscow. The Russians didn't believe that we would attack at this time of the year when the cold weather is setting in. They probably thought that we would give them a recuperative period until next year. The last hour of Bolshevism is near, and that means that Old England's destruction is imminent. You can hear on that island now the same desperate cries which once were uttered in ancient Rome. Germani ante portas, and this time it's Adolf Hitler who is standing before the gates. These are my comments about the present political situation. For the time being, we are resting in a Russian blockhouse. Since it is terribly cold and unfriendly outside, we have no choice but to move inside and fight it out with the lice. Don't be afraid when I come home in a few weeks, my darling. I won't bring any of these bugs along. The only thing that I'll bring is myself. Is that enough for you? Can you sense how much I need you from the letters that I've been writing, or has my language become too difficult and sombre? I'm still thinking about the rather incomprehensible sentences that you wrote in your letter of the 13th of last month. It sounded like you are starting to distrust me. I didn't know what you meant. I certainly keep no secrets from you. Are you perhaps somewhat jealous of me? I assure you, I belong to you alone. I'm not going to become upset about those few comments, because I know that you will write me soon and tell me what you meant. In 2 days, our child will be 4 months old. In these 4 months I have been separated from you, and have been with you only in my thoughts. All of us believe and trust the words of the Führer in his great speech. Indeed, the last decisive battle stands before us. Soon I will be home to hug and kiss you, and then I will finally hold my baby boy in my arms. The 12th of October, 1941. Dear Father, didn't I predict this news? You must have heard the special announcements about Vyazma. Yes, you can find me here. I almost think that this battle is the last flickering moment of a once powerful Russia. For days now the enemy has tried to break out of our iron encirclement, but their efforts have been in vain. Wherever there is a hot spot, we appear like ghosts and engage the enemy in battle. Yesterday must have been our company's proudest day in this campaign. The alarm sounded and our tanks moved out. Russian tanks reinforced with support troops wanted to break out of our ring. My unit, and I'm its temporary commander, was assigned the task of scouting the opposition. Visibility was low because of ground fog. We moved 4 tanks into an advantageous position. Suddenly 3 heavy Russian tanks, big as battleships, appeared out of the fog to the right of us. We opened fire immediately, but these tanks had enormous armor plating. if they had known that only 4 tiny scout tanks were opposing them. But here as well, courage and audacity brought us victory. 2 of their tanks were burning, and the 3rd pulled away. Once the fog lifted from the valley, we really let them have it with every barrel. Tanks, anti-aircraft guns, trucks, and the infantry fired on everything in sight. Once the main body of our company arrived, our comrades destroyed their remaining forces. Proud and satisfied, our company commander smiled at us while our eyes were still flashing. We had no losses at all. My cap, though, had a 5-centimetre tear in it due to a splinter. In the evening, civilians helped us reload our machine guns. You cannot imagine how glad they were to have been freed of Bolshevism. You can see that we are prepared at all times to beat the enemy wherever he may appear. The 15th of October, 1941. My dearest darling, my boy, it is snowing and a carpet of pure white covers the earth which has drunk so much red blood. My brave young friend Roland just died of severe wounds. Why did he have to give his life now, with the end practically in sight? We hard-hearted soldiers have no time to bemoan his fate. We tie down our helmets and think of revenge for our dead comrades. The Battle of Vyazma is over, and the last elite troops of the Bolsheviks have been destroyed. I will never forget my impressions of this destruction. From now on, their opposition will not be comparable to previous encounters. All we have to do now is roll on, for the opposition will be minor. But that's enough talk about war. Let's talk about tomorrow, about the future which hopefully will bring an early peace. The last letter from you, as a matter of fact, the last news from home, is over a month old. I guess the mail can't catch up with us anymore. No doubt it takes a while for letters to reach home as well. But I beg you, don't fear for me because I will return home. What all of us fear most now is the snow and the accompanying cold temperatures, but we'll get used to it. It won't last much longer. Right now our activities are about as dangerous as if we were on a mere expedition. It's continuing to snow outside. The covering of snow across this immense land brings with it a certain pre-Christmas spirit. Last night in my dreams I was at home with you, preparing for Christmas, the feast of love and peace. I was so close to you, and then I awakened. One day my dream will come true. You must feel how much I love you. The 15th of October, 1941. My dear mother, while a terrible snowstorm is howling outside, my comrades and I are camping in one of these terrible peasant houses. Although it's not much of a home, we managed to clean it up yesterday. Up until now, we've always preferred to dig a hole in the ground and maybe pitch a tent. Now, however, it's simply too cold outside. If you could see how these people live here, you would be horrified. This present abode is in better shape than most. In one corner, there is even a structure that looks like a bed. Most Russians don't sleep in beds, but either behind or on top of their stove. I won't describe the other facilities, such as water and sanitation. Suffice it to say that they hardly exist. Our duty has been to fight and to free the world from this communist disease. One day, many years hence, the world will thank the Germans and our beloved Führer for our victories here in Russia. Those of us who took part in this liberation battle can look back on those days with pride and infinite joy. That's all for today. I send you my greetings. The 20th of October, 1941. My dearest darling, my little happy boy. Looking outside, you'd think that I was writing this letter in the middle of the night. But when I look at the clock, I see that it is only 8:30 p.m. It's been dark for hours because in the winter months, darkness comes early to these regions. Furthermore, it has been raining again, and an unexpected thaw has set in. The formerly white cover of snow has turned dirty brown, and mud and slush are everywhere. We drive our vehicles across the fields and leave deep furrows behind. Frequently the vehicles slip and slide and even get stuck. We have lost all sense of time and don't know what day it is or what time it is. The early grey of the morning, which penetrates through the small windows of our bunker, indicates the coming of a new day, and the dusk that seems to settle in soon thereafter heralds the coming night. This cycle seems to be an endless one. In between the changes is an endless monotony. The landscape here is bleak and desolate. If we weren't here to fight and were only here to live, I mean to exist here, we would become imbeciles. Now that we have been here for some time and have had a chance to become acquainted with this land, we all of a sudden understand why it was an easy thing for the communist agitators to systematically poison these people. We've been hanging around here for days. If we only had something to read. We've gone through all the magazines a dozen times. We've solved all the crossword puzzles and we've done it over and over again, only to be entertained a little bit. Please save my letters because I want to read them again when I return. These letters are but sketches, but I will remember from them the true character of this country and its people, who have been so depraved by these idiotic communist ideas. Experiencing the conditions in which they're forced to live will remain with me forever. We Germans can hardly breathe in this atmosphere. Their houses are oppressive. Certainly we couldn't live here. And the lice are terrible. It has gotten late, and I still want to write a little note to Mother. You perhaps are sleeping right now with our child. Sleep deeply and peacefully. Your Corrie is guarding you out here on the Eastern Front. The 20th of October, 1941. My dear Mother, the hour is approaching midnight, and I'm writing to you in the dim light of a kerosene lamp. I'm on guard duty tonight. At least then you have the advantage of being alone with your thoughts, and can enjoy a comparatively peaceful and quiet time. My thoughts at this late hour are with you at home. A couple of days ago we were almost totally snowed in, and now it has been raining incessantly for 24 hours. You should have the opportunity just once to look at this country. Most likely you would only be able to shake your head, no matter if you were looking at the people or at the landscape. When we had the first real cold spell, the people were still walking around barefooted. Most of them have no shoes, but only rags that they wrap around their feet. They do this no matter if it's dry or wet, and now in this muddy weather, they're walking around incredibly dirty rags around their feet. Hygiene is something totally foreign to these people. You folks back home in our beautiful fatherland cannot imagine what it's like. These people here live together with the animals. Indeed, they live like animals. If they could only once see a German living room, that would be paradise for them, a paradise that these communist scoundrels, Jews and criminals have denied them. We have seen the true face of Bolshevism, have gotten to know it and experienced it, and we all know how to deal with it in the future. Yes, my dear Mother, there is only one German in the world, and we hope to return to it soon. The 26th of October, 1941. Dearest Maddie, little Horsty, I'm enjoying the taste of one of those excellent Nesta cigarettes that you sent me. Thank you very much. Yes, it's Sunday again, but don't ask what the weather is like. Rain. Rain, nothing but rain. The countryside looks like an endless grey swamp. The roads, at least what's left of them, have become totally impassable. Even walking has become a feat. It is very difficult to stay on your feet. That's how slippery it is. As each day passes, we're becoming more and more conscious of Christmas. I suppose we will have to celebrate Christmas out here in soldier fashion, because we no longer believe that we will be able to spend this festival of peace with our loved ones at home. But look, dear Maddie, we really have no reason to complain when we think of our comrades who are at the front stuck in mud, water and terrible conditions and, nevertheless, ready to beat back the last possible attack of the Russians. They are even ready to pursue them with a quick counterattack. A great friendship binds us German soldiers together out here. It is this camaraderie and the support that we're able to give each other that is, in my opinion, the secret behind our incredible successes and victories. This loyalty and devotion to the cause again and again was the decisive factor in many a battle, and I tell you, this comradeship has been one of the most magnificent experiences out here. This loyalty is the essence of the German fighting spirit. We can depend on each other unconditionally. Each one of us sets an example for the other, and that makes us strong. I've always known of this loyalty, but today it burns in me like a holy flame. Let this loyalty which I've experienced out here in comradeship be the foundation of our future life. The rain continues to fall, and in spite of the bad weather and the battles, I dream of you. Sometimes I can imagine how at home, during a storm like this, we would all sit together in a cosy corner of our home, and how my son would sit on my lap, attempting to pull my hair. You would be sitting next to me, resting your head against my shoulder, and would look at me, and the three of us would indeed be extremely happy. Then, when our boy has been put to bed, the rest of the evening would belong to us. I often think of those hours and days at the university in Würzburg where we first met. I think of those strolls we took in the forest after we were engaged. I know that upon my return we will spend many beautiful hours like that again. Maddie, you are my one and only love, and my heart belongs to you always. I kiss and hug you. The 1st of November, 1941. Report on the Defensive Battle of Vyazma, written by Sergeant Karl Fuchs. The encircling movement of our troops around the area of Vyazma had been completed. Our fall offensive, conducted with lightning speed, surprised the Russians so much that the enemy found no time to break out of the encirclement. Our tank company had been assigned to support a motorized battalion, which occupied the ridges to the west of Vyazma. This battalion held the ridges with great tenacity. On the 1st of October 1941, an early dawn alarm robbed us of our sleep. Once again, the Russians were attempting to break out of the encirclement by attacking the infantry battalion. Within minutes, our tanks were on the move and pushed across meadows and fields and through the underbrush toward the danger area. Enemy tanks were sighted. The 2nd Platoon, Karl's unit, was given the job of reconnoitering. The ridges occupied by our infantrymen were under heavy artillery and machine gun fire. We were in radio contact with the infantry unit, and slowly and carefully, like hunters stalking their prey, we moved toward the ridge. A thick ground fog limited our visibility considerably. Suddenly, out of the fog to the right of us, a huge Russian tank appeared. Damn the fog! We had hardly sighted this monster before it disappeared again like a ghost into the white curtain of fog. At least we knew the direction in which it was moving. Carefully we pursued the monster. Suddenly a gust of wind ripped apart the fog, and there it was. Immediately we opened fire, attacking it from several different directions. Clearly we could see our hits, but the monster seemed unharmed. We radioed to headquarters. Engaged in battle with heavy Russian tanks. 2 of the Russian tanks turned away from our fire and disappeared into a little valley. The last one became the target of our concentrated fire. Again and again we hit its steel armor until it too turned and fled. The sun then broke through the fog, and the valley was in clear view before us. From our advantageous position on the slope, we continued attacking the enemy tanks until these monsters were either burning or were left abandoned by their crew. 7 tanks were destroyed or had been inactivated. We changed our position frequently in order to be a different target for the enemy's artillery fire. It also deceived the enemy about our relative strength. If they had known that there were only 4 of us, which prevented the escape of 7 of them. Our cannons silenced them. The rest of the company arrived. Our collective firepower destroyed the last elements of enemy resistance. A truck convoy stood ablaze. The crews from 8 heavy pieces of artillery, as well as an uncounted number of infantrymen, ran for their lives. Our infantrymen greeted us with open arms. The entire company gathered together and were ready for new orders. The 4th of November, 1941. Dear Father, your letter which arrived today must have been on a real odyssey since it took the letter 6 weeks to get here. But at least I have news of you. My assumption that you were in the battle area around Kiev was true after all. I guess you have searched in vain for me as well. But it seems as if the 2 of us are competing for bigger and bigger achievements. Our last battle of encirclement against the enemy up here and your experiences in Kiev will never be forgotten. We have never before struck the enemy with such crushing defeats. I guess the Russians never dreamed that we would engage in this kind of an offensive prior to winter. I'm convinced that the last cohesive forces of the enemy have been decimated, and once again our Führer has proven to the world that the German soldier can do incredible tasks. In the quiet evening hours, we often think of those comrades who have given their lives for our sacred German cause. You're right, Father, we will never forget them, especially not my best friend, Lieutenant Prusner, with whom I had shared so much joy and sorrow for over 2 years. The cool earth covers him now, but he lives on in me just as your friend Eckstein lives on in you. I'm struck by the similarities and repetitions that take place in our respective lives. I assume that you will be home much sooner than I. Please greet my son for me and make sure that everything is all right. In the meantime, we stand guard. Let me shake your hand and Sieg Heil. The 4th of November, 1941. My dearest wife, my little Horsty. Once again it is evening and I'm writing to you in the dim light of my kerosene lamp. I am the only one awake at the moment, and no sound but the deep and regular breathing of my comrades can be heard. It's precisely the right atmosphere for me to write. In front of me on the table is a little clock which shows the time and will remind me when to post the change of guard. This clock continues ticking and is unconcerned about what goes on in the world. 1 minute after another goes by, then hours, weeks, months, and even years pass, and we human beings can do no more than wait for tomorrow, for the future. Sometimes I wish I could turn the clock ahead to that day, when I will be allowed to hold you in my arms, never to leave you again. But I suppose in the end, it's a good thing that we human beings can't play with time. Impatient individuals would then move time so far ahead until there wouldn't be any time left, and then what? Turn the clock backwards again? I'm glad that nature has its laws and that we can't tinker with them. If you have an opportunity to buy woolen things for me, please go ahead and do it. I will be very happy to receive them. In your letter of the 13th of October, you wrote again about our young son. I can't imagine that he is so big and strong already that he can sit by himself in the corner of the couch. Dear Maddie, what great fortune it is to have such a child. Just wait until I'm home. I will be able to rock him in my arms and won't give him back to you at all. Do you think he'll be astonished to see me in my black tank uniform? I have to go outside now and make my rounds to make sure that everything is in order. Every time I'm outside at night, I look to the west, hoping that I can see you in the distance. Then I kiss and hug you and long for you. The 5th of November, 1941. My dear Maddie, thanks a lot for that lovely letter which I received today. Let me say at the very start, I'm by no means annoyed with the letter, and the only reason that I'm not madder than hell is because I won't be mad. The person who wrote these words is a stranger to me. I simply can't believe that it was you who wrote this letter. At first I wanted to send the letter back, but I decided against it because I do want to reply to a number of things that you said. Please take out the letter which you wrote some time ago and compare it with my answers. You will see that you have misinterpreted me completely. At that time I simply said that if you didn't want to teach school anymore, then you should go ahead and quit and simply spend your time taking care of our child. I've never doubted that you love the profession which you chose. Yet I'm not aware that I ever attempted to instruct you in the art of school teaching. That's why your words are totally incomprehensible to me. I will henceforth refrain from using exaggerated rhetoric, as you say, when I write to the people back home. I suppose we can prove our idealism here in this magnificent country and in daily battle. In the future, I will spare you the experiences of a soldier at the front. Lastly, let me say that what I intend to teach my pupils in the future is none of your damn business. Apparently, you're upset about something that I don't know about, otherwise you wouldn't write this way. Let's assume that you indeed will stop teaching. If you think that you can spend the few lousy Reichsmarks that I make every month, then all I can say is, go right ahead. No, Maddie, you can't threaten me this way. Don't believe that you've married some kind of a clown. If you think that you're stubborn, believe me, I'm more stubborn than you are. How in the world can you say that I belittle your needs and worries and consider them insignificant? If you've ever been unjust to me, this was the time. You write that your love for me has not diminished. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. I'm faced with enough nonsense out here every day that I'd just as soon not receive any from home. Don't worry. In the future I won't bother you anymore with personal requests for money, cigarettes and letters. The best part of your letter, though, is the end. It is reassuring to know that I have a person at home whom I'm totally devoted to, and who can assert with a sarcastic smile, I imagine, that spending the winter in Russia must be marvellous, and that my son can grow up very well without my help. These words really hurt. Apparently you've grown indifferent to me. I suppose the main thing is, though, that you're leading a dazzling life and are becoming more beautiful day to day. Well, so much for my answers to your letter. You've promised me in the past that we wouldn't quarrel. The letter today, however, contradicts that promise. I'm willing to forget the entire matter, and you must agree when you read your letter again that I won't stand for this kind of language and couldn't take this attack lying down. Maddie, why make life more difficult than it already is? I look forward to every one of your letters and am happier than a kid at Christmas when they come. You must know how much they mean to me. Please don't do this to me again. Do you want to make up? I love you so much. Only you. The 6th of November, 1941. Dear Mother, I was so happy to receive your letter and the 2 pictures that were included. I've received 3 other photos from Maddie, one only with Horsty in it, one with you holding my son, and the others are pictures of Maddie and Horsty. I have to look at these pictures again and again, and then must suppress my longing into the furthest corner of my heart. My son is almost a half-year old. I suppose by the time I see him for the first time, he'll be able to walk already. We've received orders to move on in a few days, and again the direction is further away from home. I guess this means that our dream of coming home at Christmas is over. Therefore, you at home must pull together even more and be brave. An icy wind is howling around our camp. Yes, soon snow and cold will be our constant companions. That's all for today. I send you many greetings. The 6th of November, 1941. Dear Father, yes, we're moving out again. In spite of the terrible cold and snow, our unit has been called up again. At least we know for sure that we won't be spending Christmas at home. Somewhere in the north here we will find a little Christmas tree and will celebrate Christmas with comrades. We know what our duty is and will be up to the task. Don't bother looking for me. Suffice it to say that we're moving in the direction of Moscow. I suppose that you may even be home by now. If you are home, I know that you will set things right. Maddie and Mother sent me a few pictures of my son. Damn it all, I'd really like to see him soon, but I suppose that I'm in the same situation now that you were in during the Great War. We have to suppress our longing for our loved ones because we're fighting for a great cause. I enjoyed hearing about your adventures. Yes, we too are familiar with partisans and have dealt with them. On to new deeds and victories. Sieg Heil. The 11th of November, 1941. My dearest, my little boy, today is a very happy day for me. It's almost as if I'm back in my childhood because I remember St. Nicholas Day and all the activities associated with it. Starting with St. Nicholas Day, the anticipation of Christmas grows real. I suppose St. Nick thought of me a distant soldier today since I received so many presents. Dear Maddie, I really want to thank you for all the lovely gifts. Let me tell you what they are so that you know that I received them. First of all, many thanks for the cigarettes, and please thank Hedy for the few words that she added in your letter. Thank you also for the candy, the toothpaste and the lotion, the woolen gloves and the woolen scarf. I can really use the last 2 items now. Yes, here I am again, sitting in one of these God-forsaken Russian peasant houses, supporting my head with my hand and thinking of you, my dear boy, and of all those loved ones back home who've been so good to me. And today our boy is 5 months old. I suppose that's a birthday of sorts. I can imagine that he has grown big and strong and is a very sweet baby. All of us out here, all my comrades, continuously ask the all-important question, when are we going to be able to go home? I still can't give you a definitive answer to that question. When I do return from these battles, I will probably come empty-handed, but my heart will be full of endless love for you, and that is probably worth more than any present. A few days ago, it really started to get cold around here. It's a gripping cold and not comparable to anything that we might experience at home. Yes, we really have to bite the bullet now, but we will survive this as well. I love you forever, you alone and Horsty. The 12th of November, 1941. My dear Mother, yesterday my son was 5 months old. You don't know how often I think of him. Soon he will babble his first word, Mama, and maybe he'll say Papa as well, and I, his father, am farther away from home than ever. My plight today is similar to Father's in the Great War. We men out here on the front know what our duty is and act accordingly. All of us have become serious and mature in this struggle for the future of our people. If we won't see our homeland by the end of this year, and maybe not right away next year either, then we simply have to endure the disappointment because we know that this sacrifice must be made. Our thoughts, wishes, and dreams fly to you at home, and when we men gather out here around a small Christmas tree in a few weeks, our eyes will be bright because we'll know that our homeland and our loved ones can celebrate this feast in peace. You at home must always keep in mind what would have happened if these hordes had overrun our fatherland. The horror of this is unthinkable. We know no fear. The cold is going to be a factor, but we shall endure that too. One of these days we will meet again, and no one is looking forward to this more than I. I send my greetings and remain forever. The 2nd of December, 1941. My dear Mrs. Fuchs, as leader of the unit to which your husband, Sergeant Carl Fuchs, was assigned, I have the sad duty to inform you that your husband was killed on the field of battle on the 21st of November, 1941. His heroic death occurred when he was fighting bravely for Greater Germany in the front lines, during a heavy battle with Russian tanks. The entire company and I would like to extend our deepest sympathies to you for the terrible loss which has befallen you. We commiserate and are saddened that fate did not allow Carl to see his little daughter, of whom he was so proud. Be assured, however, that we will never forget your husband, who was one of our best and bravest tank commanders, and who always fought in an exemplary fashion against the enemy. We have prepared a dignified resting place for him near the city of Klin, north of Moscow. I hope it will be a small consolation for you when I tell you that your husband gave his life so that our fatherland may live. I greet you with sincere compassion. Lieutenant Reinhardt, Company Commander, the 2nd of December, 1941. Dear Mrs. Fuchs, in the name of the company, I wish to extend to you our deepest sympathy for the painful loss which has befallen you. Our comrade, Sergeant Carl Fuchs, was killed in the evening of the 21st of November, 1941, during a skirmish with Russian tanks. He was one of our best comrades and was popular with his superiors, as well as with those whom he commanded. He lives on as a shining example of bravery for the entire company. His last resting place, as well as the grave of his ammunition loader, were prepared by us in the village of Syrupkhoje, in the county of Klin. We also photographed the grave of the hero. As soon as I make copies, I will send you a picture. I requested that the Non-Commissioned Officers Association become the godparents of your small daughter. As soon as the company has more time, I will come back to this subject. We're still engaged in heavy battle with the Russians. I greet you with sincere compassion. Forster, Master Sergeant, the 18th of June, 1943. To Widow Helene Fuchs, schoolteacher included, is the Silver Tank Assault Medal, which your husband, Sergeant Carl Fuchs, earned. We are proud to send this decoration to you as the widow of a former member of our unit. Signed, Major.